This is LBC. Message Vanessa Feltz on WhatsApp now. 0345 60 60 973.
So we're taking your calls on the King and Queen's state visit to the USA, 0345 60 60 973. But I know a man I'd like to discuss this with, Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent. Simon, we'll talk about Iran's foreign minister in Pakistan for peace talks in just a minute. But first of all, we are discussing, as everybody seems to be endlessly in this country anyway, the impending state visit. And many people are really opposed to it for many different reasons. They feel as if it gives Trump the seal of our approval. It gives him cachet and gravitas that he doesn't deserve. It appears to ignore whatever's going on in Iran. So many people feel and that it puts the king in a very difficult, potentially embarrassing position.
Yes, I mean, the good news ahead of Monday, Vanessa, is that they've now got the right flags flying in the middle of Washington, D.C. I don't know if you spotted yesterday, but the work crews that were sent out to make sure that the Union Jack was fluttering along the streets through which the King and Queen will be transiting when they arrive here was put in place. In fact, they erroneously put out the Australian flag.
Stop it.
And when this was seriously. And when this was pointed out by various observers, the work crews rather sheepishly returned to the streets, removed the Australian flags and put the Union Jack out. So at least we've got the Union Jacks flying in Washington now. So there's that. I mean, I see that elsewhere there are various quotes flying around suggesting that this royal visit is high risks, high stakes, high opportunity. Now, I absolutely get the fact that it's high risk. There's no question about that. And I think your caller, Lorraine, just before the news headlines, actually nailed it. I mean, I think the chances are that President Trump is going to behave himself when he's with the King and Queen. I don't think he's going, hopefully, not to launch into another attack on Keir Starmer, publicly voice his argument that he does obsessively, that what Keir Starmer should be doing is drilling for North Sea oil off the coast of Aberdeenshire and should be cracking down on immigration. I don't think he's going to say that. I hope he's not going to say that on camera when he is with the King and the Queen, the royal couple, for the various events that we're going to see between now and Thursday. But I think Lorraine is absolutely right. The chances of him zipping his lip on social media for 4 full days, the chances of him not talking to a reporter who either calls him up or somehow engages in an interaction with him in which he is invited to take another pop at the Prime Minister. I think the chances of that not happening at some point during the next week are pretty minimal. And therefore, the argument that this is also high stakes and high opportunity, I actually think should be interrogated, because what is the opportunity?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
And
what is the opportunity?
What are the stakes?
Exactly. What is the opportunity?
Well,
what is the best case scenario? What is the plum achievement that we're all aspiring to, maybe even praying for? What do we want from this?
I mean, I think that's a very, very difficult question to answer. I mean, a win looks to me like it would be 96 rancor-free hours here. Marvellous pictures, wonderful bonhomie expressed by both the President of the United States and the King and Queen, flawless pageantry, nothing going wrong, the toasts consisting at the state dinner of compliments without hidden messages, particularly from the American side, that are designed to indicate that they're going to continue chipping away at a special relationship that simply is no longer a special relationship. But what a bigger win than that looks like is very, very difficult to identify. I mean, the King is going to be holding talks with business leaders up in New York, we believe, and certainly there is opportunity here for the UK, separately from its conversations with the Trump administration, to deepen its individual trading relationships with individual states. And that has been a cornerstone of government policy, that, after all the tariffs and the arguments over the trade deal that isn't really a trade deal at all now, you should actually be working with the individual states to deepen trading relationships. And that process absolutely can continue. But I think if there is some sort of wistful imagination that by the end of the week the special relationship can be looking absolutely bright and shiny and fantastic again, and all the difficulties of the last year will be behind us. I mean, there's just absolutely no chance that that is going to take place.
And therefore, are we suggesting that Keir Starmer and his government are naive in being the force propelling our King and Queen across the Atlantic? I mean, what do they think is going to happen? They obviously think it must be worthwhile. You say it's high stakes. They obviously think they're worth achieving, or they wouldn't bother with it, would they?
Well, I think it's possible that after they decided to go ahead with the state visit, when there was so much incoming from President Donald Trump designed to undermine the Prime Minister, and let's be clear, under the terms of the US government's national security strategy, it is official policy to grease the wheels of what they call patriotic European political parties, by which in the UK they clearly mean Reform UK. It's official government policy to promote those parties, and we're going to see, I think, more interventions in our internal politics in that regard in the months ahead. I mean, I think given all of the incoming that has been flung in Keir Starmer's direction over the last few weeks, particularly since the war on Iran began, the government may perhaps have had an internal conversation about whether the visit should be shelved, but may also, if they were going to have that conversation, I have no idea if they did, one of the aspects of that conversation would be a calculus about how much more damaging it would be to the bilateral relationship to cancel it. And in some ways, I think it's possible that this visit is taking place because it simply would have been too damaging for it not to go ahead. So it's happening, it's on, they got the right flags flying. Let's see if the President of the United States can behave himself at least for 4 days.
Final question about this. What if he can't and doesn't? What if he does say something derogatory or insulting or simply inappropriate about North Sea oil or about Keir Starmer or something completely different? What if he does go and tweet some hellishly insulting thing in the middle of the night or say something off the record which ends up in every paper to some attractive young journalist or something of that ilk? What's the precedent of how to behave on a state visit if you find yourself or your government or your country gravely insulted by your host or hostess or both?
Well, I think it depends on the circumstances under which that kind of an incident were to occur. I mean, were it to occur, on camera while he is with the King and Queen, one would imagine that some wargaming may have been done about what the diplomatic response to that will be. Look, I think it's inconceivable that the King is going to be put through one of those, open-ended editions of the Trump show that other heads of state and political leaders particularly are put through whenever they wander into the Oval Office. I just don't think we're going to see an extemporised press conference, because there's no way that the diplomatic service would have allowed for that in their communications with the president's advisors. But in the event that he takes to social media, or in the event that he gives an interview and is similarly pugnacious as he has been over the last few weeks, then there will be the opportunity perhaps for quiet pushback in one-on-one conversations between the King and the President of the United States. But ultimately it's going to fall to Sir Keir Starmer back in London and to the government cabinet members back in London who are not travelling with the royal couple on this visit. Ultimately, I think it's much more likely to fall on them to respond from there, while the King is continuing with the Queen to navigate through the 4 days of events that are lined up for them here.
All right, let's discuss the fact that Iran's foreign minister is in Pakistan for peace talks, and that J.D. Vance has been told to stay at home. We've seen lots of stuff about that over here. We're very fascinated by that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the administration assuming that, you only send J.D. Vance back into the lion's den when you really, really think there's a chance of a peace deal being close to final, and when you think that the Vice President of the United States is going to be able to come home and say to the President, right, we're ready to sign. And they have evidently concluded that that is not the case. So they're sending Steve Witkoff, the President's friend from New York business circles, pharmaceuticals real estate mogul, now his special envoy on all matters international, and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law. I mean, in some ways, it's more interesting that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has not been dispatched to Islamabad, not the first time and not the second time. He never has taken part in any of these talks. The idea that it fell to J.D. Vance the first time round was kind of strange, and given that the Iranians the first time round played the United States into a situation where no deal was agreed, I think they're eager to avoid that again. The problem with these peace talks remains that the Iranians know they've got a stranglehold over the world's economy, and it's called the Strait of Hormuz, and they are not going to give Donald Trump what he wants, which is a return to freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Indeed, they've painted him into a corner where he is the man now blockading the Strait of Hormuz. And they see the polls here, as we all do, and the rising fury of Americans with the president's handling of the economy, less than 7 months from crucial midterm elections in the United States, and they figure that they've got the power. And also they know now, through the reporting that's been done here this week, that in classified briefings, never mind all the bravado of Pete Hegseth when he's in front of the microphones publicly, in classified briefings this week, members of the upper tier of Pentagon officials told lawmakers on Capitol Hill if peace was agreed tomorrow, it would still take up to 6 months to clear the Strait of Hormuz of mines, which means that we've all got, at least 6 months after peace is agreed, of instability in the oil markets to deal with. So the Iranians know they're in a powerful position, and they're not going to give the United States what it wants.
Simon Marks, thank you very much indeed. It was a pleasure having him on the programme, although what he says is more alarming by the week. Every week that goes by, more and more alarming.